Hello everybody and welcome to another video with Jabbar. This is going to be a look at a defensive 3-gate build for PvP that is just getting popular on the TeamLiquid forums, and this is a post by a forum user by the name of Geiko or Geiko, I don't know how he pronounces it, but I will provide a link in the video description, and this build is just really cool. Very well constructed, and I wanted to run through it with you guys against the AI and show you all the neat little timings. So while we wait for the game to begin, obviously I don't take any credit for this build. I'm just excited for it and want to demonstrate it for you if you haven't seen it. The aim of this build is to use 3 gates and to defend a 4-gate while taking a second gas geyser and having more units and more probes. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's pretty cool. So let's have a look here. This build has the benefit of looking exactly like a 4-gate for pretty much the entire inception of it. So as long as they're scouting, they're going to think you're probably 4-gating, or they're not going to be able to tell what you're doing. This is unlike the 3-stalker rush, which of course is very, very easy to scout. Nine pylon, very standard. And I'm not scouting after pylon because you want these extra minerals. Get the chrono boost timing right there. I just want to mention how difficult this is to talk while getting these timings proper, but I'm going to do my best and try and get this done in one take here. So now gateway on 12, very standard again. And since we're against the AI, I'm not going to scout my base or anything, and I'm not really going to scout my opponent either. It's not necessary. Chrono boost right after the gateway. Because you put it on 12, you do have to cut probes very briefly, but it's worth it because you get your warp gate started a little faster. 14 gas. Mine was probably a couple milliseconds late there, unfortunately. Not to worry. And now for the next for our number 15 probe, we're going to rally it over here, and then we're going to make a pylon right there, and now we're going to put him in the gas, put those guys in gas. And next on 16, I will cut probes yet again and make a cybercore, because I have to. That's just how the money works out. Next, Proby. Now we're on 17. I want to make a zealot. 17 zealot. There we go. And I should have just barely enough money to start my next probe. Yeah, there we go. Notice I'm not scouting. I don't really care what the AI on easy is doing right now. It doesn't matter. So next, we're just going to keep building probes until we hit. Actually, I can chrono boost probes one more time here, or you can save the chrono boost for a stalker. It doesn't really make a difference. And now I make a stalker after this zealot. I forgot to rally that. Okay, so we're at 24 out of 26. We're going to totally cut probes. My next build is going to be a gateway, then an assimilator, next a pylon, close to the ramp. That's pretty important. You want to be able to reinforce pretty quickly. And now, we do want a chrono boost warp gate. And I'm going to make a 3rd gateway next, and then put this guy into that gas geyser. Put those guys in there, and this is going to be a sentry out of this gateway. And one more chrono boost on warp gate. And now I can make another probe. I was already at 20, so this is going to bring me to 21. Hotkey all those guys. I'll make a stalker. And this sentry was actually slightly late, so that will impact the build a little bit, unfortunately. As I said, it's not that easy to do it. Alright, so now we're at about 31, and I'm going to make a pylon. So I've got 2 stalkers working at building out of these 2 gateways. And when you, I could fit one more probe in here. When you do the build properly, if I hadn't been late on this sentry on this gateway, this stalker would be finishing right now and the timings would line up perfectly. So this will be only very slightly late on this gateway here. Okay, now we got some warp-ins. And warp-in. Now we've got to make another pylon. And we do have one force field right now. Soon to be two. This sentry is 90 energy. So we're going to assume that they're 4-gating. We're chrono boosting gateways. Obviously this is a computer, so it's terrible. Now let's look at the benefits of this. I've got 2 gas and only 3 gateways. You might think, well, how is that possibly better than 4 gateways with 1 gas? And basically it means because you have 2 gas, you can warp in pretty much nothing but stalkers. And that helps you a ton. So now we're going to put down a Twilight Council over there, I guess. And of course the timing for 4-gate is long past, so we're just going to move on. And yeah, this build pretty much transitions really nicely into Blink or DTs if they really hardcore 4-gated and they're still trying to, or maybe they'll be sitting here at the ramp and expanding over here. Some people like to do that after a failed 4-gate, and a DT build will just destroy that. Pylon. So yeah, what we're going to do is take a look at this replay, and we're going to see just how nicely those units and timings line up. Barring, of course, that I was slightly late on that 1 gateway. So here we go. And yes, I like to do all my practice build games against the AI on Steps of War. Pretty much because no other game I play is going to be on that map. So what that means is I can easily distinguish my practice games from my actual games. Just something to keep in mind here. Alright, so I'm going to run through it on ×4, and we're just going to look at the numbers according to time. We're not going to compare it to the player 2 because that's totally pointless. And the only thing I did poorly was that when my this gateway was a little bit late after I started the sentry, so we're gonna ignore that. So an extra, you can actually pull off 3 chrono boosts on the Nexus. Do gateway, gas, pylon. That ordering is important, and then gateway again, and then we go right into that gas geyser. I like to think of it as GAPS, which is a sentry. Gateway, assimilator, pylon, GAP, S for sentry, and then make another gateway. So if this was slightly earlier, theoretically this stalker and this stalker should be starting at exactly the same time. And we're going to look at the time that 4-gate typically hits, which is about 5:45. Alright, so warp gate finishes now. This stalker should have been finished if I hadn't delayed the sentry. So imagine that all these gates are transforming at the exact same time, as they should be, but this one's only slightly late. Alright, 6-minute mark. That's when warp gate finishes. That's at 5:45. This is when they should be coming up your ramp. We've got 1, 2, 3, 5. Should have about 6. Alright, 6 sentries. Those are stalkers. 6 stalkers, 1 sentry, 1 zealot, 22 probes. A typical 4-gate will have 6 stalkers, 1 zealot, 20 probes at this time. So you get 2 probes and a sentry additionally to a 4-gate, and because you have 2 gas, you can warp in continuous stalkers, as we will see. You don't need to warp in zealots after a period of time. The 4-gater will run out of gas and will have to warp in zealots. And All you have to do is micro around the Zealots sniping their Stalkers, and they just can't do a thing. Very easy to do. And finally, I'm going to go ahead and load up a replay that was posted in this thread between Masters players. And we're going to look at this build in action. Alright, here we are in the replay. This is going to be a Masters level game demonstrating this build. Our thread creator here is Geiko, or Geiko, however he pronounces that. And the opponent will be Joseph, a Masters player. This is going to show an execution with a defense against a pretty much perfect 4-gate. So, we're going to speed along here in the opening section. This is not too important. I mean, this is standard for every single PvP, except maybe if you're doing a 10-gate or whatever, but... Here we go, gateway on 12, we're going to be scouting out. Joseph is a little better at scouting the perimeter of his base, but certainly we're not going to criticize anything too harshly here. Now we're rallying the number 15 probe out here to make a pylon, and then we'll go directly into gas. See how nicely that all lines up. Got to rally back. Now at 16 we're making our cyber core. And we're scouting out the opponent. 17 we're going to make our zealot. Where's the money for that zealot? There it is. And we're going to have just enough money to barely start a probe. Here we go. Almost no time cut for probes. And there's the third chrono boost on our Nexus. The opponent, Joseph, sees this, and he's going to be thinking, Geiko's not doing a 4-gate. He's chrono boosting his Nexus too much here. So, what this means is, at least in the olden days of the old patch, what this would mean is, come on computer, hold it together. Alright, we're good. What this means in the old patch is, if your opponent's not 4-gating, then you can 4-gate and you're almost certainly going to win. In this new modern age of PvP, that's not true anymore, and we're going to see why if my computer decides not to die on me. At 24, we're cutting workers. I've not paused this replay. My computer is being snotty. Yes, at 24, we're cutting workers. We did the gateway, then the simulator. Next is going to be a pylon. And finally a third gateway. We made a sentry here before the third gateway. And we're going to make, there's a gateway, and now we got probes and gas. Chrono boost, warp gate again. Look at what our opponent's doing. It is indeed a hardcore 4-gate. So now these two gateways make stalkers at the same time. There we go. They should start stalker production at about the same exact time. And these two will finish their stalkers, and this gateway will complete right when warp gate finishes. It's an amazing timing for this build. And now we look here, the 4-gate's about to finish. Gateway should be warping in. Alright, slight mistake from our opponent. Kind of a big mistake. There we go. He is laying down 2 pylons here. And now we have our stalker warp-ins. And let's take a look at the unit count. Well, okay, he hasn't warped in anything yet. Now unit count. The zealot just died. Stalker just died. So, you know, we've got some micro that was happening, but typically, at 6 minutes, a 4-gate is going to have a zealot and 4 stalkers. 6 stalkers. What do we have? We have a zealot, 6 stalkers, and a sentry at this timing. And we had enough money for a couple of probes. Geiko elected not to make those probes, but he has an advantage anyway with his gas, so he doesn't strictly need to. Meanwhile, he almost has enough energy for a second force field. Now he does. So as long as you keep the sentry alive, you will have 2 force fields in the process of this battle. And we're pretty much just reinforcing with stalkers at this point. And we just have so much more stuff than our opponent, 7 stalkers to 3, that we can just overpower him, run down the ramp. And look how easy this looks. You have so much more stuff. The reasoning is we made those extra units out of the gateways before we morphed them. And we got 2 gas so that we're warping in stalkers and not resorting to zealots. And we didn't spend 150 minerals on a gateway that becomes useless after about 2 warp-ins. You can't support 4 gateways off one base, you can only support 3. The way the reason 4-gate works so well is that you cut unit production before you morph them into warp gates, so you have a huge swell of units initially. And now we're just transitioning into this Twilight Council. That could go into Blink or DTs, but our 4-gating opponent needs to rush for a Robo right now. And it's the only way he can possibly stay alive. But we have a great advantage, and this build is super awesome. So that's going to complete this video. Thank you very much for watching, and please go check out that thread. Watch some of these replays. It is really nice. Very good, well-constructed build. So hats off to Geiko, and yeah, see you guys later.